clarity. Don't ever let anyone tell you you're not worth anything, because we all have a gift. For me, it's teaching people how to handle their money. We all have life gifts. For you, it could be telling stories. So write a book. If you want to find clarity in your life, find your life gift.
Welcome back. We all have life situations that send us on an emotional roller coaster. My next guest wants you to know you can cope, and she's going to show us how. She's a psychologist and author of Sanity, Savors, Tips for Women to Live a Balanced Life. I like that. Please welcome Dr. Dale Atkins.
Hi.
It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. I'm
Now, we know
delighted
each
to
other
be
from
here.
Naomi's New Morning, and I'm so happy you've decided to join us on our show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, is it really possible to create a balanced life, or is that an unattainable dream?
It is such an attainable dream. I mean,
I'm happy to hear that, too.
you can absolutely have a balanced life. It's all about attitude, and it's all about really trying to figure out what's important, what you want to do, and when you want to do it, and how to manage all of those balls that we're all juggling all the time.
And we juggle a lot of them, don't we?
Well, we do, and women juggle particularly a lot of balls in the air
We're
at
like
the same
queens
time.
of multitasking.
Yes, and sometimes what happens is there are some balls that we're juggling that are really, really heavy, and we don't pay attention to how heavy they are, and we still try and work really hard. And sometimes you have to put them down every so often and just get help and really appreciate what it is you want to do and who you're going to do it with and what do you need to get your balance in your life. And that's why I wrote the book.
Well, you gave me a little homework.
I
And
did.
you asked me to come up with 3 things that make me feel balanced. So I thought about it, and I thought family, meaning for me, like particularly spending more quality time with my daughter. And the other thing I thought of was spirituality, and that for me means just taking that time, during the day or sometime during the week to either journal or meditate, just getting in touch with my inner self. Doing that kind of work is important. And then the third thing I thought of was physical well-being, because for me, I just can't make it throughout the week without doing some kind of exercise, and eating right is important, and all those kinds of things fall under that category. Now, if I can do all those things, and I don't always accomplish that, then I feel balanced when I can get all those things done.
Well, you actually hit on 3 of the most important elements of
I
having
did?
a balanced life. You really
I
did.
get an A, no.
You do. You get an A in life balance. And one of the things is, and not unlike a lot of people, you say, well, if I can only do this, you're aware of it. Being aware of what you need, and everybody needs something different, but we all kind of need, in general, issues that have to do with getting in touch with yourself, spending time with people you love, doing what you love, and understanding that you have to be in balance, and being physically well is a very important way to do that. Because if you're not physically well, and you don't...
That's high up there.
Yes, because it changes your whole body chemistry, and it changes your attitude about things when you feel you can do something. So one of the things, and thank you for doing your homework, very, very good. One of the things I like to tell people is not only is it possible, but understand what you know keeps you in balance, because what keeps me in balance may not be what keeps you in balance.
But the other side of it, I mean, if as I said, I try to do all these things, but if something doesn't happen, I shouldn't beat myself up about it too, right? I mean, that's the other
No.
sort of flip side about it.
Yeah,
of it.
I don't think it's useful to beat yourself up, but it is important to say, well, is the rest of my life really out of balance because I'm kind of not paying attention over there, and I need to pay closer attention. So I think that, there are basically 5 elements that people need to pay attention to. And, you hit so many of them, but I really think that we need to pay attention to support and who is really in our life. You talked about your family. We get support, but we also give support. And if people are in our life who we love and who care about us, that's great. If people are in our life and they're emotionally draining us, and we feel as if, oh no, I can't have one more interaction with this person, it'll kill me, then we have to figure out how to manage and set boundaries. We have to take care of ourselves. That's probably the most important one of these 5 S's that I talk about.
These are 5 S's that you're coming on.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah.
And you talk about, I talk about 5 S's, and the first one is self. And you talked about well-being. Well, what do you need to do? You need to eat right, you need to exercise, you need to sleep, you need to
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, a lot of people forget about
I
it.
forgot about sleep.
And the rest of our life really suffers when we're not sleeping enough. So you have self, you have support, surroundings. What is it in your life that really makes you feel calm and energized? For many people, for me, it's going outside and being in nature. And that's, for me, gives me the biggest jolt of anything. And then we need to have stimulation. We need to feel energized by our work, by a passion, being curious about something. So stimulating our mind and always learning something new. And the last one is savor, to really be present and to savor and to take in whatever it is we're involved in. And having, for you, a spiritual connection, well, if you're really connected, you can savor and feel fulfilled and enriched, so that whether you're meditating or whether you're just connecting with a higher being, you feel really that you have what it takes to keep you in balance, so that no matter what happens, you can rely on yourself and you can rely on the sanity saving that you have inside of you.
So these 5 S's that you just named, what are we supposed to do with those? Are we supposed to look at those every day and ask ourselves, am I living this? Is this it?
Well, I think we can start by getting up early in the morning and saying, instead of, oh my gosh, I have so many things to do today, what am I really grateful for? Let's do a body check. How do I feel? And what do I need to pay attention to? And if you're having a little problem with your elbow, take a moment and rub your elbow and say, okay, I can work with this, rather than jump right out of bed and think of all the things that are ahead of us. And then looking at your life on a regular basis. It can be daily, it can be weekly, it can be monthly, and I think it should be all of these things, and say, where am I really out of balance? What do I need to do now? But when you're driving to work, or if you're on the subway, instead of just focusing on everything that isn't going well, focus on 1 or 2 things that are going beautifully. Like if you're driving, take a moment and take a different route and notice something that's really quite lovely that you might not have seen before. If you're taking a walk, which I suggest everybody do, and really get their bodies going, then pay attention to how your body feels as you move and notice the difference. When you start to go from feeling kind of blah to feeling energized, you know that you're really enhancing your sanity.
Well, I wanted to talk about specifically about surroundings, which is one of your S's, because this year for me will be the longest I've been away from Africa, which is where I grew up. And so I'm really missing, because you talk surroundings is really about getting back in touch with nature, and I'm just really missing the smells and the sounds and just the beauty of Africa. And so it's just, and my parents are actually going very soon. So that's also, I think, bringing it up for me.
Of course. And what I tell people, Timberly, is if you can't get to the place that really feeds your soul, like for you it's Africa, then go to a place in your mind's eye where you are reminding yourself of the feelings, the tastes, the scents of that place. And you can use it with photographs, you can use it with videos, you can just, I tell people at work to open their desk and have a photograph of the most beautiful place they've ever seen in the world, even if they haven't been there, and go to that place. So you can recreate, by visualization and by going in your mind's eye, you can recreate the feeling of well-being you had when you were at that place until you go the next time. So
That's a great idea. I'm going to pull out my pictures.
Yes,
I
pull
didn't
out
think
your
of
pictures
that.
and
I
keep
have
them.
lots of pictures.
Keep them readily available. Put a picture of a magnificent mountain. Maybe it's Kilimanjaro.
It is Kilimanjaro.
I know you climbed Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
And keep that on your refrigerator. And every time you go, think of that feeling of what it was like. People can go to the beach, they can go to mountains, they can go any place in their mind's eye. And this is what helps people get well when they're not feeling well. You can be in a hospital bed and you can visualize a beautiful surroundings, and it will bring you peace inside.
It works.
It does work. It really
Well,
works.
Dr. Dale, we took to the streets to ask people questions about maintaining balance. And you're going to stick around and sort of help us
Absolutely.
out with that. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Don't go away. Welcome back. Joining us again is Dr. Dale with more information on how to balance our lives. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
Now, as I said before, we took to the streets to get some real questions from people out there. So let's start with the first one.
Terrific.
Dr. Dale, my question to you is, I need help in balancing my life as far as my parents are concerned. They're getting older, and they're turning into real people for me as opposed to mom and dad. And I need to be able to balance the way I speak with them as far as patience is concerned. I'm already an impatient person. But when my mother asked me for the 10th time the same thing that I told her the 10 times, I lose my patience.
Okay, she seemed very honest.
She's very honest and actually quite typical of a midlife person who's now getting into the getting into the feeling of her aging parents and how to change her own life to be responsive to them. And I think the first suggestion I would make to this woman is breathe. Take a breath before you say anything to your parents, because she recognizes that she is impatient. She said, I'm an impatient person. But she also recognizes that she's become more impatient. Underneath that impatience is a fear and an anger about her parents getting older. And if you have to say the same thing 10 times, then you lose your patience. But I think what she needs to do is take a breath, and before she says anything, think, this is my mother, this is my father. They are teaching me something. They are continuing to teach me, and now they're teaching me about patience. Because really what parents do is they teach their children, no matter what age they are. And then I think what she needs to say is, I'll be a better daughter and I'll feel better about myself if I can take that breath and listen and just say it again as if for the first time. Because when we say something for the first time to a person who may have heard it, well, we say it maybe for the 10th time to a person who may have heard it for the first time, we have to remember, for them it's the first time. And this is very sad when this happens, but you can reinstate your role as a dutiful daughter or a dutiful son by really paying attention and just breathing and treating them the way you would like to be treated.
Sounds good. Take a breath. So
Thanks.
let's hear from our next person.
Okay.
Dr. Dale, how do I balance my family life and my career so that they're both given equal attention, they're both as important to me?
Real common one, right?
Real common.
Yeah.
Real common and a real issue. But the first misconception is that we can do this 50%. We can't do 50% work and 50% rest of our life. It doesn't work that way. Balance is a process, and sometimes certain aspects will be in balance better than other times. But I think what you can do is when you're at work, focus on work, really stay present, and try not to let the other aspects of your life bleed into it. And then leave work, and when you're home, that's when you involve yourself with your family, your friends, your hobbies. You go to the theater, make time for yourself, do your physical activity, and that's the rest of your life.
So it's really being in the moment wherever you are, in the moment at work,
Absolutely.
in the moment with family.
Absolutely, and understand that when you are working, work is one part of our life. She was interesting. She said, work and the rest of my life. Well, work is part of our life.
Right.
And when we do well with work, we really enhance our self-esteem and we feel good and we feel accomplished. But we also can feel those feelings when we're not at work. And we have to pay attention to the rest of our life. It's just as important. Each one feeds the other. So if you find that it's like this, then you really do have to balance. But rarely will it be 50-50.
Okay, and we have another woman who's
Great.
who has a question for you.
Okay.
You're a therapist, and what do you advise parents, moms and dads, not just about how to raise their daughters, but how to raise their sons, so we create a culture that that supports all members of a family?
She brings up the raising sons question, huh?
She does, and she brings up a question I think that everybody really is paying attention to, which is we are all valuable in our family. And the family culture has to be that your ideas are as important as my ideas. And so when we make plans for the family, we take into consideration everybody's desires so that we all go to somebody's soccer meet, we all go to church together, or we all go on this family vacation that we've all had input about, because we are all valued. And we all have chores in the house. You know, just because you're a boy or just because you're a girl, everybody chips in. So everybody can help prepare the dinner, everybody can help with laundry, everybody can help walk the dog, and everybody helps make cards for the family members who aren't well. We all do what we think is important as a family.
You make it seem so simple, but I'm sure there's a lot of work involved.
It's not simple at all, Timberly, but what is necessary is to commit yourself to the fact that you do want to change, and that once you see the value, then it becomes easier. It's not easy. But it sure beats the alternative, because the alternative isn't so great. You want to have a life in balance. And it's worth the time, and it's worth the energy, and it's worth the effort.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dale. You've been such a big help today. And it sounds
Thank
like
you.
when you feel balance, you actually have clarity. And so it's so important to pay attention to how we're feeling.